Welcome back to Meg's Mysteries. This story's called Prisoner of the Ice. On the early morning of April 15th, 1912, the unsinkable luxury ocean liner, the RMS Titanic, hits iceberg in the North Atlantic Ocean. On her maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City, America, with its 2,224 passengers and crew. It sank in the North American Ocean, and the 1,500 died. 1913. On a ship passing through the area where it was said the iceberg that sank the Titanic was still located, my great-great-uncle Max McGarvey was reporter looking for a story on the iceberg that sank the unsinkable ship. The crew noticed something strange in the iceberg. It was melting away, caving due to warm water temperature of the North Atlantic Ocean. An iceberg only lasts about 2 to 3 years, and then it disappears. And this one was close to that time, only a year to go. It was formed from a piece of glacier broken off from Greenland and made its way to the North Atlantic, where fate turned its ugly head and made the worst maritime disaster, the sinking of the RMS Titanic. So great-great-uncle Max wanted to take some of the last pictures of the iceberg before it was gone for good. He had taken pictures in 1912 when it happened and caught the red line of paint on the iceberg that came from the ship when it collided with the ice. They pulled as close as they could to get a close shot and a perfect picture for the story. With binoculars, he noticed a dark figure in the ice as they got nearer. Then they all saw an amazing sight. Encased in the ice was a perfectly preserved figure of a lady. He took many pictures and got the right coordinates. He'll come back and retrieve her from her icy prison. He must show the pictures to some of his trusted friends to get help and get this in motion. Great-great-uncle Max, who I was named after, also took the photos to my great-great-grandfather, who was a well-known scientist of the time. He asked for help retrieving the ice lady. They both were wealthy men and could arrange a trusty crew and helpers who can keep this a secret from the world. They had to go right now before the iceberg melted away for good and lose the lady forever. The warm temperature of the North Atlantic was caving it fast. So they all kept it secret. He wanted to save her from this being a sideshow called the Ice Maiden. A team of his most trusty fellow scientists took her and hid her to keep her frozen until they can find a way to bring her back to life. She remained frozen all this time. Because of the scientist in him, he became obsessed and very interested in the science of preserving bodies. The term is now called cryogenics. In 1877, it was first adapted. It had been around since the 1900s, and now, in modern times, even been accepted and used in NASA in 2021. Back to his story. Great-great-uncle started up a private group to study the process and see if it would work on the Ice Maiden. The physics of cryogenics is the product and behavior of material at a low temperature to preserve the body until it was time to retrieve it from its suspended animation, a sleep state. He got his inspiration from the Ice Maiden, and he wanted to bring her back to life. Do you think him a mad scientist? Maybe at the time and place, but nowadays it could be possible. December 16, 2021, NASA developed a cryogenic sleep chamber for astronauts to lower their body's temperature to 32 to 34 Celsius. It triggers a natural hibernation by sending the metabolic rate into suspended animation. So you see, my great-great-great-uncle's idea was not too far off. Back to the Ice Maiden. She was still kept frozen and hidden by our family. Years later, long after my great-great-uncle Max and my great-great-grandfather had died, we still have her safe and frozen in time. My grandfather and my father's We're all scientists. We're still working to find a way to bring her back to life. I was a boy about 13 when I first got my glimpse of her, a beautiful sleeping beauty, and I fell deeply in love. I was told this story, and now at 20, it's up to me to complete the task of setting her free, to find a way to bring her back from 1912 and her long sleep. Is this madness? But with modern science and all the technology at our fingertips, could it be possible? Or are we just a family of mad scientists and it's just a sci-fi movie? 2023, my name is Max McGarvin. I am the inventor of Cryo 2000. I have a special team of scientists. Gail Fisher, Bruce Poland, Arthur Millstone, and John Wang. We are secretly trying to bring her back. The ice around her is slowly melting, even though she has been encased all those years. One day the electric was on the fritz in our private lab, where we kept her for years, and she started to melt. We were already working on the Crypto 2000 sleep chamber, and an idea of how to bring her back, but now we have to hurry. She's out of time and melting away right in front of our eyes. The team slowly moved her and watched the ice around vanish. She became more beautiful as it melted, and we're all on edge. Will this destroy any hope of saving her? 3 days later, all the ice is gone, and her body was still frozen. We got the first look at her, a 1900s woman dressed in clothes of that time, a coat, scarf, gloves, and a shoulder bag around her with her personal possessions. She was dressed to bear the cold weather of the North Atlantic, where she was found. We carefully undressed her and put her in a modern gown, then into the sleep chamber. She was thawing enough for us to attach monitors and a lifeline, as we called it. Like a baby in a mother's womb, it controlled oxygen and food supply to her. Then we waited for her first heartbeat and signs of life. Is this just a theory? Will it work? Can we bring her back to life after all this time? Or was she dead when she was encased in the ice? We just had to wait and see. It took many days of monitoring her. We took shifts, hoping we didn't destroy her. I took the last shift with no hope of it working when the monitor lit up in a faint heartbeat. I yelled for the others, and we waited and prayed. A flicker of her movement from her finger. She's alive! Then a gasp of air, and her eyes opened, and then she screamed. Who can blame her with what a sight to wake up to? We all were looking down at the sleep chamber with her in it. I saw the panic in her eyes. Where is she, and who are you all? Slowly we opened the chamber. She was alive. I brought her out and tried to calm her down. I didn't know if she understood anything I said. Calmly, she looked around to the team, all smiling at her. I tried to tell her all about it, and then all her monitors and all her vitals, everything, she was in fine shape. It's a miracle. But was it a miracle or something out of a sci-fi movie? For months we worked with her and got her story. This is from the Journal of Max McGarvin. Her name is Catherine Ann Kelly. She was a pastry chef on the RMS Titanic ocean liner. She told us it was every girl's dream to go to America and work on the Titanic on her maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City in America. In 1912, they set off from England on their voyage of a lifetime. She made so many friends and great people on a short journey before the disaster hit. April 14th, 1912, the night before. After serving a grand dinner to the wealthy passengers, the most famous people she has ever seen, the kitchen crew and other staff workers had a party in the small area off the kitchen. What a grand time they had. She was very fond of a porter named Rodney O'Brien, and they were becoming fast friends. The next morning, April 15th, as she was waking up to start her day and get ready for work in the kitchen, she and her roommate, Mary, were awakened by a loud noise and a jolt. Almost threw them out of their beds. What could that be? Mary said. Oh, it's nothing to worry about. They are on the unsinkable Titanic. They both smiled and went back to getting ready for the day. An hour later, a knock on the door. It was Rodney, the porter, in a panic. "My girls, get your warmest clothes on and your possessions and meet me on the deck." "What's wrong?" Catherine said. "We are sinking," he yelled. "Only a small amount of lifeboats, and only women and children are allowed in them. Hurry, you must come now." Puzzled, but they followed him through the crowds, trying to get to the boats. He heard it all from the wealthy passengers that the ship was sinking. But how could this be? They finally made it to only 2 boats left. However, Catherine and Mary were put on, but Rodney stayed and waved goodbye. "Goodbye, my friends." They lost sight of him as they were lowered down to the cold ocean awaiting them. The lifeboats rowed away as fast as they could. The ship was sinking fast. Catherine saw it all, people screaming and many in the water dead, some trying to grab a hold of the boats, only to drown or freeze to death in the icy ocean water. What a horror. Then someone grabbed hold of the boat and climbed aboard. Catherine was pushed off into the freezing water. The boat capsized and all was lost to the sea. But she found her way onto a large piece of floating ice. She climbed up and laid down to die. Before she closed her eyes, she saw the last of the Titanic break in two and sink into the ocean below. A huge wave from the ship sinking came toward her, and the ice was pushed far away into a current. She was swept away from this area. She closed her eyes for the last time and thought she would die. But fate had another surprise. The ice she was on floated toward the iceberg that sunk the unsinkable ship. Somehow she froze, encased in the ice. There was a large hole in the iceberg. She wound up in there, in a kind of suspended animation, like a cryogenic sleep. She was preserved for centuries until now, from 1912 to present day. Now she's brought back to life, after all these years, a prisoner of the ice. Instead of making this a scientific breakthrough, the team kept it all secret. It's all agreed that we didn't want a story to get out to the world, and she would be called a freak of nature. She needs peace and a new life now. So my friends and I kept it all quiet. And Catherine and I got married. I told you I fell in love with her at 13 when I first laid eyes on the Ice Maiden. And now we have a peaceful, quiet life. We moved to a village in Ireland, and we're opening up a pastry shop called Kathy's Dream. So were we like Dr. Frankenstein and his monster? No, she's no monster. We did bring her back to life, believe it or not. Some secrets are best kept. What do you think? Is this the end or is it the beginning? Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. Come back for more on Meg's Mysteries. Until next time, have a good evening.